Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is Mama Ming. In today's video, I want to share with you my third trimester symptoms. So if this is the first time you're on my channel, I already gave birth about 8 months ago at the time of filming this video. But I have noted every single week of my pregnancy symptoms in my third trimester, and I've been wanting to sit down to make this video for so long, but finally I got a chance. So before we start, I just want to do a disclaimer. Everyone is different. Check with your doctor for any medical advice. Alright, let's get into today's video. So starting at 28 weeks. Starting at 28 weeks is the first time ever in my pregnancy that I have trouble falling asleep. So in my entire pregnancy, I was very sleepy at all times. Like I was so sleepy at all times, and it was so much easier for me to fall asleep in my first and second trimester because I was tired all the time, even though I always had to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. In my third trimester, starting at 28th week, is the first time I actually had trouble falling asleep. Also, by the way, if you haven't seen my first and second trimester pregnancy symptoms week by week, definitely check them out after today's video. And by week 28th, your babies are actually pretty big. Your baby is as big as an eggplant. In week number 29th is when I have a less frequent bathroom break at night, because like I said earlier, like I think in my first and second trimester, I was waking up like 2 to 3 times per night to go to the bathroom to pee. But starting at week 29th is when I only had to wake up once in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. I still had to wake up once because, you know, there's way more volume of blood, like there's way more volume of like water retention in my body in the third trimester, but I didn't have to go to pee all the time in the middle of the night. It's just once or twice. It's like significantly less frequent compared to the first and second trimester. So starting at 29th week is when I start to have the worst brain fog. So in my entire pregnancy, I kind of had this like brain fog, like, you know, what they call pregnancy brain. But I was pretty sharp. Like I was pretty sharp person. My memory wasn't the best during my pregnancy, but it wasn't my worst. But starting my like 29th week was when I started to have the worst brain fog. I felt like I was tired, but it wasn't really tired. It was that the weird brain fog that wouldn't go away. It feels like that. It kind of feels like the times when I don't have enough sleep. It feels like the days I only have like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, even though I already had like 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I still had this, I don't know why, brain fog. Nothing will make it go away. It's so weird. Week 29, I started to have super bad sciatica pain. It's so bad that I think starting in week 29th, one day I woke up from my sleep, and when I was trying to go to the bathroom, and I realized my left leg was paralyzed. Like there was like a shooting pain from my sciatic area all the way, just like through my legs, and I just couldn't walk on my left side, and I had to like hold on to something. I can only move one leg until that pinched nerve slowly started to relax. The sciatica pain was so bad starting at 29th week, to the point that sometimes I feel like I'm paralyzed because the pain is not just in my lower back and my sciatic area. It actually pinched the nerves all the way through my legs, like I became very tired and sleepy, like very sleepy, like to the point that no matter how much sleep I get, I still feel the brain fog. I still feel very sleepy. I started to have the uterine tightening starting at 29th weeks. So it feels like my uterus is tightening up. It's like I can feel my uterus start to tighten up. So that's when it started to give you this practice contractions almost. It's not the real contractions, but it started to have this like Braxton Hicks, but it's not completely like Braxton Hicks because it doesn't feel like a contraction. It just feels like my uterus like tightening up. It feels like a little bit like similar to period cramps, but not as crampy. It's like tightening up. In the week 29th, I started to have swollen fingers, swollen legs like crazy. Like my entire body is just so swollen, especially my legs. If you press your fingers, it's like my lower body edema was so bad. My fingers were swollen, my under eyes were swollen, my face was so swollen at week 29th. I definitely don't miss that week. At week 29th, your baby is as big as a squash. Starting at week 30, I started to feel so starved at night. I have frequent hunger spells. Before that, I was always hungry. I was hungry my entire pregnancy, but starting at week 30th, it's like if I wake up in the middle of the night at 4 a.m. to pee, I have to go downstairs to eat something. It's the weirdest thing ever, because in the past, if I wake up to go to the bathroom, I'll be like, I'm gonna go back to bed right away to go back to bed to sleep. But starting at week 30, when I wake up in the middle of the night to pee, I'm like, I'm so starved to the point that I can't go back to sleep. I have to go home downstairs, eat some hard-boiled eggs, eat some bananas, and then go back to bed. I was so hungry. Starting at week 30 to 31 is when I started to have stomach cramp, when I feel hungry and cold. It's the weirdest feeling ever. It's like I will wake up in the middle of the night with empty stomach and I'll feel like my stomach is like cramping. Not my uterus, just my stomach, like my upper stomach, like where the food goes, and it would just, it feels like it's like this. If I don't eat something, I feel like my stomach is grinding itself. But I think starting at week 30 is when my baby started to put on the weight. So maybe that is why. Week 30, your baby is as big as a zucchini. Now week 31st is when I first started to experience Braxton Hicks. Braxton Hicks is, it feels like stomach cramps. Okay, my doctor told me that Braxton Hicks feels like you can breathe through it, and when you walk, you can walk through it. But one day I was taking a walk with my husband at night, and suddenly the Braxton Hicks kicks in, and I was like, hold on, I can't walk anymore. Just give me 5 minutes. And I was just standing there, and I was like, okay, Braxton Hicks, like I was like, my stomach is cramping. It feels like my uterus is going crazy. And my husband was like, oh, you're not having birth. I was like, no. I can breathe through it. It's something very breathable. You can breathe through it, but I couldn't walk through it because the more I walk, the more contractions I get. Like the Braxton Hicks contractions is like the more I walk my hips, the more contractions I get. But if I just stand there and breathe through it, then it will be over after 5 minutes, maybe 10-minute max. At week 31st, I felt hungry all the time, bad sciatica pain as well. That's when I knew labor is near, but I also knew it was not that near because my Braxton Hicks is more like come and go. It usually happens at night in the evenings. It never happens during the day. You always happen in the evenings at night, where the hormones start to shift, soften my cervix slowly. And that's when I told my husband, I think my baby is gonna come before the due date, because I had a feeling my cervix is gonna soften before that, because I had a lot of Braxton Hicks. Week 31st, your baby is as big as a bunch of asparagus. All right, so at week 32, the same old is sciatica, having hunger spells, and tired. So from week 32 to week 33 are very similar to week 31. It's just worse. There's more Braxton Hicks. I feel more and more hungry. The sciatica pain was so much worse and worse as the baby grow heavier and heavier. So at week 32, your baby as big as a squash, and at week 33, your baby is as big as a bunch of celery, a celery stalk. All right, so starting at week 34 is when I had COVID. I got COVID at week 34, and I had a very mild case. So most of my symptoms in week 34 was because of COVID symptoms. I had a lot of nose congestions. But I think my brain fog was actually from the pregnancy, because I've had COVID before. I never had brain fog when I had COVID, but when I was in week 34 pregnancy, I had the really bad brain fog. But honestly, when I had COVID, I was getting 10,000 steps every single day. I tried to walk as much. I tried to do a lot of house activities at home. When I quarantined myself, I was bored to death. And I think walking really helped with sciatica as well. So week 34, when I had COVID, the worst symptoms I had is incontinence. It's when you actually start to wear diapers. It's also when the baby was really sitting on your pelvic for a lot. So at week 34, your baby is as big as a butternut squash. At week 35 was when my nausea was back. I was feeling very, very nauseous. Every time I eat, I had really bad heartburn. I had really bad nauseous. Okay, my heartburn wasn't that bad because I was drinking water with higher pH because that's supposed to neutralize your stomach acid more. But it was more of the nausea that's bad. I think the nausea is also caused by the pregnancy hormones, not so much by the heartburn. My brain fog worsened at 35 weeks. I just want to lay on the couch and watch TV, not because I don't want to do anything, it's because my brain doesn't work. When your brain doesn't work, you really don't want to do anything. Like, I didn't want to drive, I didn't want to go to places, I didn't want to talk, I just want to sedentary. I think it's also caused by the hormones and the fact that I'm carrying like a bigger weight in my belly. I started to have increased discharge, and that is also because the hormones and the Braxton Hicks contractions soften your cervix more, and that will create more discharge as well. And I started to have indigestion starting at 35th weeks. So my nausea's back, indigestion is like if after I eat, I just couldn't digest them. Just very, very weird because in my entire pregnancy, I just feel like my stomach is a furnace. It keeps grinding and I keep eating more. But starting at 35th week, 35 weeks, it's like indigestion now. Week 35 is when I started to have night sweats. That is my hint that my birth was near, because I'm very sensitive to my hormones. If my hormones fluctuates in my cycle, sometimes I will have night sweats when my hormones start to drop. So my hormones start to drop at 35th week, and I start to feel like I think my birth is near, because at night I will have like, I will be soaking wet in bed, and that's usually the dropping of my hormones. At week 35, I was like, uh-oh, my baby is coming soon. At week 35, your baby is as big as a pineapple. All right, at week 36 is when my night sweats got worsened, and I had lower blood pressure. At week 36, my blood pressure started to drop. My nose started to bleed a lot, and I felt sleepy and lightheaded. So the nosebleed was actually because of my low platelets count. So in your third trimester, some people, their platelets will drop. I already have low platelets because I have autoimmune issues with my platelets. My body destroyed on its own. And then at 36 weeks is when my platelets got so low, and I start to have bruises of all around my legs, my nosebleeds every single day. My blood pressure dropped below 100 on the high one. So my blood pressure, I think that week when I went in for a check, it was like 95/60 or something. And then the nurse was getting concerned because usually your people's blood pressure was a little high in third trimester. But I did some blood work, and then my platelet was low, and I had symptoms with the low platelets. Week 36, my baby is as big as a papaya. All right, so week 37. Week 37 is kind of like week 36. I had nosebleed, I felt sleepy and lightheaded, I have low blood pressure, I felt a little dizzy, I have night sweats, and I became way more swollen with my limbs. Water retention is to its highest. It's so bad. But then I started to have night sweats, and then the Braxton and Hicks contractions is also high. More discharge. I feel like I truly believe my birth was near, but I still know that it's not here yet. And also I was still going to the gym. I still did boxing workout. I still did kettlebell workouts. I did kettle booty workouts. I still did like a lot of these workouts at 37 weeks. I still taught yoga, everything was well. And at 37 weeks, your baby is as big as a romaine lettuce, like a big bunch of romaine lettuce. All right, week 38. Week 38 is an interesting week. That is the first week that I felt like, okay, I'm going to slow down after this week in terms of my physical activity. All right, so in week 38, I went to kettle booty class that day, like on Monday, and after the workout, I felt a lot of discharge. I also felt contractions, like Braxton Hicks contractions was very strong when I was working out. So during my workout, I actually stopped a little and just to hopefully I'm not putting myself in labor. Like in my mind, I was like, uh-oh, did I put myself in labor? But then it was a Braxton Hicks. It wasn't a real contraction, but I'm pretty sure it's induced by my like deadlift, my exercise. And also at week 38 is when I was like so, like I felt so hot. I feel like, okay, I'm not gonna work out a lot after this week. So I still worked out on Monday. I still taught yoga on Monday, Tuesday, Friday, but I think that is the first week I modified a lot in that workout. And week 38 is the last week that I took workout classes or did any sort of real workout. Because at work 38, I felt like any workout could have put me into the labor right now, because I had so much discharge and I feel like I was having the Braxton Hicks contractions like non-stop every single day. I feel like my cervix has softened like so much. And that week I went to get an exam. And then my doctor said like, oh, your cervix is softened, but it's not 100% yet. So it doesn't seem like your labor is near. And then we talk about induction at 40 weeks. And then I told my doctor I want to be induced at full term 40 weeks. And then we worked out like a plan and a day, and you know, like we scheduled induction and everything. Just in case the baby doesn't come before that. And also interesting enough, I actually had a interesting dream in my 38 weeks. I had a weird dream when I sleep that like in my dream, I remember I like went to my friends and then they were like, why is your belly so flat? Where's the baby? I was like, the baby just slipped out of me when I was sleeping and then he was born. Like in my weird dream, I went to hang out with my friends and they were like, where's your baby? I was like, I don't know. I think he just slipped out of me in my sleep. Like it's so easy. He just slipped out. I didn't even push. Like he just slipped out. Like when it's time, it just slipped out and then he's outside. Someone is in the nursery right now. Like it's the weirdest dream ever. And in my dream, I was like, I didn't have to push. The baby just randomly slipped out in my sleep. And that is when I was like, okay, the birth is near. And that is when my intuition tells me, I think I'm gonna have an easy birth. I think my birth is gonna be so easy that I didn't have to push. The baby is just gonna slip out and everything is gonna go well. So I woke up, I told my husband, I told everyone this weird dream, and they were like, I hope that is the case, but we don't think that's what happened. I only worked out twice, I believe. I didn't work out a lot. I still walked a lot, but I didn't do any weight bearing workout anymore. I was just walking and I stopped doing cycle workout. After Monday workout, I slowed down. I only work out like once after that. Also, my nosebleed went away. Like my nosebleed stopped, all my bruises stopped. And then like, if you don't know, I have a Ph.D. It's not in OBGYN field. It's not in the medical field, but I actually look in peer-reviewed empirical research. So there was a study by Harvard. It's a small scale study and it was an exploratory study. But they noticed that before women give birth, there a lot of biomarkers change. So traditionally, historically, people believe that your baby decides when they're gonna come. That is only half true. Yes, the baby's lung mature will send signal to your brain to send hormones to your body to give birth. So historically, people are like, if your baby is late, it's because your baby is not ready, don't induce. No, the baby is ready. It's only half of the biomarkers. It's also the mom. The mom has a say in there too. If the mom is stressed, you're not gonna get into labor because you need to be in a very relaxed state. You need to be in that like feel good oxytocin relaxed state for the hormones to kick in. But in addition to mental health and stuff, there are also other biomarkers. There are immune response that works out. There are also other things work out. One of the biomarkers is actually the platelets going up because women bleed during birth. And one of the markers is that like your platelets will naturally go up by a certain amount to prevent you from bleeding out, from hemorrhaging during birth or after birth. I read that exploratory small scale study and I can really resonate with that. The baby lung mature is sending the signal to the mom's brain, but at the same time, the health state and the mental state of mom, and there are a lot of biomarkers of the mom also dictates when the mom's body is ready to give birth. But at 38 weeks after I read the study and after I had this dream, I was like, everything is gonna work out. My platelets is gonna go up. Everything is gonna go, like, everything is gonna go smooth. So my baby ended up coming at 39 weeks and 3 days before the induction day. So my intuition was right. So at 39 weeks, on Monday, I taught yoga at like late 7:15 to 8:15. And when I was teaching yoga, I noticed like my contractions and a gush of fluid. I was like, uh-oh, maybe my water break. No, my water didn't break. It was just discharge, but it was my cervix softened up so much. And then on Tuesday, I went in for like a normal exam, like a cervix exam. My doctor was like, you're not dilated yet, but you're 50% infaced, which means your cervix is pretty softened. When it's 100, it's when it's like the best day. So on Tuesday after the exam, I went back to teach another yoga class. I taught a power yoga class. And then on Wednesday, I went to Costco, filmed a Costco shop with me videos in my main channel, and I was taking walks. But on Wednesday afternoon, so the day before I give birth, 24 hours before I give birth, I noticed small bleeding, a little bit of spotting, during that time, like when I went to the bathroom, and also like noticed in my pants, like I had a little bit of bleeding, a little bit of spotting. Oh, you just had a cervical exam. There's likely that I have some spotting after that because it may irritate your cervix and it may cause some bleeding. I was like, okay, that's fine. So that could be what happened, right? But 24 hours before I give birth is when I started to have a little spotting, and I have way more Braxton Hicks contractions, and I had a lot of night sweats. And this is another thing is when I sleep, sometimes I will shake. I will have a little bit of shake, and like almost like an adrenaline shake. Almost like when you're about to give birth, that spontaneous, uncontrollable shake. Like I have a little bit, like after I take nap or when I sleep, I just shake myself out, like from my a week before I give birth. It's also like a little bit before 39 weeks, like towards the end of 38 weeks, is when 1 week before I give birth at 38 weeks and 5-6 days, is one day I woke up in the middle of the night at 4 o'clock, and then I was like, I think I'm giving birth. I was having contractions, and I was having contractions every 10 minutes. Like it feels like real contractions. It doesn't feel like the Braxton Hicks contractions anymore. It feels like real contractions every 10 minutes. And I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe through it. I have to put myself in child's pose. I have to go into tabletop position. I woke up my husband. I took a shower. I was like, maybe my baby was born. And that lasted for 2 whole hours. And it stopped. Starting from that day, I started to go into the bathroom a lot. It feels like I have food poisoning, but no, it feels like every time I have contractions, I have to go to the bathroom. Every time I have the contractions, I have to go to the bathroom. So the 24 hours before I give birth, that night, like that Wednesday, I give birth on Thursday. That Wednesday night, I just had the most crampy night. I went to the bathroom 4 times. It feels like I had food poisoning, but I didn't have food poisoning. It was my system clearing out, because a lot of times when women give birth, you know, they can't control it. Sometimes they take a number 2 when they give birth, when they push, right? It's very normal. It's like the biological process, but it feels like my body, my system is trying to clear it out, like before I give birth. I was having light contractions, but I had to go to the bathroom a lot. So at 39 weeks and 3 days, like that Thursday in the morning, starting at 7 a.m., I started having contractions, and I literally have this app called The Bomb, and it has contraction timer. So I used the timer to time it. It started at every 7 minutes, and it progressed to every 6 minutes, and I started to have way more bleeding, like first day of period. So I called the hospital, I called my doctor. I was like, should I go in? Should I wait? I don't feel like my contractions are like every 3 to 4 minutes apart. It just feels like every 6 minutes, and it's been 2 hours. It went from 7 minutes to 6 minutes, and it feels like it's progressing and I'm having bleeding. And she was like, you need to come in because you have bleeding. Let's take an exam. And they put a contraction monitor there, and they were like, oh, you're having contractions every 5 minutes. I was like, score, my baby is gonna come. And it turned out that I gave birth on the same day. The baby slipped out. It's just like how I dreamed it. Like I only had to push for 15 minutes and the baby is out. I didn't really have to try too hard. Your body literally tells you, like if you really relax your mind, your body literally tells you what's going to happen, because your body will send you certain brain signals and you will know, you would start to feel it. That is my 3rd trimester pregnancy symptoms. Early labor symptoms is definitely, first, I had diarrhea. That's like one of the symptoms I had. I became way more crampy. I started having diarrhea 1 week before I gave birth. Second of all, like the Braxton Hicks contractions are no longer Braxton Hicks. They're actually real contractions that's not progressing. It's not Braxton Hicks anymore. It's almost like false labor contractions. Third of all is a lot of discharge because your cervix is softened. That's one of the things, like, you know, in labor is like your cervix softens. And fourth thing is like your body will start to know, and the hormones will drop. I started to have night sweats. I start to have like a little shake myself out. So you will notice the hormone drop because your hormone drops before you give birth, and it will drop like super fast, rapidly during birth. And finally, I had a little bit spotting to bleeding because my cervix is like start to dilate. Once my cervix started to dilate, I think that's what caused the bleeding. It wasn't like heavy bleeding. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't watched my 1st and 2nd trimester symptoms, definitely check it out. Subscribe and check out my other videos in this channel. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.